Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, along with my co-host and one of my best friends, William McClellan. How's it going today, Will?
Man, life's good. Life's good. No complaints. How about you?
Oh, dude, it's a great day because we got a great episode. So, we're bringing on one of my friends that I've known for the past 5-6 years. His name is Scott Mueller. He's from North Carolina. He and I originally met through Clean Eats, which we usually plug throughout the show as one of our sponsors. He and I are both Clean Eats franchisees, so he's a multi-unit operator up there. On top of that, I've been watching his journey on fix and flips and real estate masterminds, and it's been really great to watch. I've seen him have several successful flips. I've seen him get into Airbnb. So Scott's a really great guy, and he's, I think, a great person that can show you, how you can, combine your real estate journey with still having, businesses and a career path. So without further ado, welcome Scott Mueller to the Elite Real Estate Podcast.
Hey guys, I'm pleased to be on the show, and I'm looking forward to see what we can talk about.
Yeah,
yes,
man.
Sir. Nah, man, thanks for coming on, dude. I know, like I said, I know, it's almost convention time with Clean Eats, so I know you're busy trying to get things going in your store. So I appreciate you giving us some time today.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Yeah,
man. We'll go ahead and get things kicked off. So, tell us a little bit about growing up, life before real estate / entrepreneurship. That's a big part of what we like to talk about here. It's not just segmented only to real estate, because we have a whole bunch of really cool leaders within their own industry, just breaking the 9-to-5, becoming an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about that and about your childhood. Tell us who Scott is, and up through high school, college, just a nice brief but detailed background for all the listeners to get to know you.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm from Texas, so I was born and raised in San Antonio, and then grew up in a little town called Bernie, just north of San Antonio. In fact, Bernie was in the World Series, the Little League World Series, and into the final game. So, for the American side of it, which was pretty cool. But
that's amazing. So you like the hill country up there, right?
That's right. Yeah, well, I was in the hill country.
My folks live right outside of New Braunfels, so very familiar with that whole area. Super beautiful.
I know it well. Absolutely. Yeah. And so growing up there, my dad was a commercial builder, and so he built office buildings and industrial buildings and things like that. So I always had kind of an interest in real estate and development, really. I started out in college at the University of Texas at San Antonio, UTSA, after high school, and started out in architecture. And man, I just really couldn't make the models very well, so I had to change that. But they did teach me how to write cool, so I do kind of write like an architect. But
awesome.
And my dad always did too. My dad was an engineer by trade, and so I went to a bunch of schools. I was also in a couple of bands. I played drums and sang, and I really enjoyed playing music more than I enjoyed going to class. And so a lot of schools gave me vacations. So several schools said, "You know what? I think you ought to take a break."
College sent me on vacation too. So
after about the 5th or 6th one, I turned to the Marine Corps and enlisted in the Marine Corps in 88. And so I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. That's how I got to North Carolina. And I got orders here, and spent my 4 years here. Never really did leave Cherry Point, and just sunk down some roots here in North Carolina. And so when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went back home for about 8 months, and then I moved right back here and moved to Greenville. And
nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Close to the water, and I miss being close to the water. And in San Antonio, you're not close to any water at all. So
hey, you got the Riverwalk.
Yeah, that's a ditch. That is a ditch. That's it. The man-made ditch. But it's beautiful down there, and I love going back to Texas all the time. I do it. I try to do it about every year. And so after the military, I went and finished school at East Carolina University. Go Pirates! And then a brief stint in the restaurant business. And when I got out of college, I had a degree in finance with a concentration in real estate. And so I left college and became a commercial real estate broker, and did that for a couple of years, or tried to do that for a couple of years. And it's feast or famine in that business. And if you don't have some money in your pocket, it's tough to make it and last long enough. So I tried the mortgage business for a little bit. And then I ran into a guy that had launched a development business, a waterfront land development business. And he originally called me. He had been coming out to see me play. So during this time, I'd learned how to play guitar, and I started playing. I was playing downtown here in Greenville, and entertaining folks for years. And that's how I kind of made a living in between careers. And so one of my customers, I was playing for his Christmas parties. He eventually hired me as a salesperson in Timberline Land Company. And so I learned how to sell waterfront land and learned the development side of the business, and learned a lot about sales. And that was a good run of a career until I launched my own business in 2008. My own development business. And as you can imagine, that was the wrong time to launch a waterfront land development business.
Tough year for sure.
Yeah. So
timing has a lot to do with a great idea. It
really does. I mean, I took a really good deal with me, but it just didn't matter. Nobody could get a loan for land. Nobody trusted appraisals at that time. And people's 401ks had disappeared. And so we just couldn't make a living doing what we knew how to do anymore. So a lot of us slid down the hill into bankruptcy and foreclosure, and me included. And so I spent about 5 years in the Motorola radio business, selling two-way radios, which I hated. And then I landed at PNC Bank selling merchant. I was selling Clovers, which is what the POS system Clean Eats used for years, was the Clover system.
Oh yeah.
I was selling that, and then my wife brought Clean Eats to me that she heard about through a trainer friend of hers, and so we opened up a Clean Eats. And during that whole time, I had run far away from real estate because it had bit me in the tail severely. And but while I was in the waterfront land business, I had bought a bunch of rental properties around East Carolina with a couple of partners. And so I'd had several years of landlord experience, and we ended up selling those in early 2000s at the top of the market.
Nice.
So I got some landlord experience there. I'd never done any flipping, although we had renovated several houses. We always kept them. And so when I started Clean Eats here in Greenville, it didn't take too long to figure out we needed to have another one in order to make a living. So we opened one in Norfolk, Virginia, and that was doing really well for the first couple of years. But I really couldn't scratch that itch that was nagging at me about getting back into real estate. And so of all the places I started looking at TikTok. I had never used TikTok before, and I started looking at it, and with whatever I would like, everybody would say, well, all you see are girls dancing on TikTok. And I saw that at first, but as you start to like things, and it learns what you're interested in. And so I started getting a lot of real estate content pushed to me, and I was really intrigued by short-term rentals. And so I found Bigger Pockets, and I found Sam Faster Freedom. I found what's that got? Airbnb Automated, and some other Airbnb folks, and really consumed that for 6 months or so, and decided I was gonna try to get an Airbnb. And so we bought a townhouse in here in Greenville and renovated it and started renting that out, and that's done very well. And then we bought a house down in Morehead City, which is near the coast here, near the ocean, and actually converted that into a duplex. It was a single family, and we built a firewall, converted that into a duplex. Spent way too much money on it, way over budget on the furnishings, on the construction, everything, just all kinds of mistakes made there. But that thing has rented like crazy. And so from that, I found 7-figure flipping.
Nice.
And,
we know Bill Allen. He's from here.
Okay. So, Bill is my mentor. He's my coach. And
nice. That's so.
I've been a part of 7F since December of 2022, I guess. And, that led me to buy my first flips. So I'm not sure where you want to go from there. If you want to.
Well, I was actually gonna, you kind of got into a little bit, because I was gonna ask you kind of who inspired you to get back into real estate, after that. But you kind of went to a little bit with the stuff on TikTok, and then now it sounds like you got really good direction from Bill Allen. But was there any other people that kind of like helped you kind of nudge you back into the real estate, knowing that like you should try it again?
Well, I got, I saw some Grant Cardone content, and that was intriguing, and of course I spent some money with him, and I actually almost invested in one of his projects, and I ended up investing in a 7F project in Jacksonville, an apartment complex. So I'm a limited partner in an apartment complex in Jacksonville. But Grant Cardone has a lot of good stuff, and I went through his 10X program, and that whatever that thing he did last year, it was a massive. I think you probably did the same thing. It was a massive,
Yeah, his real estate workshops. He has some good
Zoom call, great big Zoom call. So anyway, real estate workshop, but really it's Bill Allen that has given me the most direction, and the people within his team. Just tremendous in the ways they very much align with me in terms of my values. They have the military background. Bill Allen was a Navy pilot. He just recently retired, and a proud Christian man, and those things are very important to me. And to run a business that way is important to me. And so I find him to be a great mentor because of how our values align,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that. I actually we've had several guests, talk about, their relationship, and how Christianity has, helped them in, business and real estate, So, I mean, I'm definitely a believer in, believe that, the more, you try to be a good person and good Christian, I do think, you do see the blessings, as you go.
Right.
So, but no, that's definitely cool. So Bill Allen was the person who kind of got you started back on the flips. I'll go ahead and let Will take it from here, because I think now his question's up.
Yeah. So I was actually going to do something for the listeners, because it sounds like you were in multiple spots just based off of that, of real estate, from coming from a family commercial builder. Also, you got into the mortgage business. I'm sure people would like to lean into a little bit about that, because you kind of just said that, and then you started selling for the Timberland company, in that type of development. So it's like you were in development, you were on the back end for lending money, you see the commercial side out, outside of just the underground and developing. And so kind of tell us, like, being
Hey, you
able
left
to
out. You left out. He had landlord experience too. I mean, Scott's really done a little bit of it all in real estate. Like, I mean,
right.
he's literally tried almost all the different facets of it. Decide which one you like the best.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, and a landlord. So that's what I thought was really fascinating, because you're definitely the first person that we've had that's been in, like, pretty much every facet of the business. And so I'm curious now, what kind of led you to secure yourself in flipping in comparison to being in other sides. Like, I'm pretty interested in, like, lending money and the mortgage side. Also, we love new development too. So I'm kind of curious on that experience, and then, like, what kind of segmented you outside of maybe finding Bill Allen and his team to flipping, but just like the experiences within each part of real estate, and what were some of the ups and downs of each one?
Well, I think when you just look at if I take my life right after college, so I was a commercial real estate broker after college, and I tried to find a job for a long time. I went to a company in Raleigh called Highwoods Properties, and I sent them a resume every day for like 3 months, and I could not get an interview. So I showed up there, and I went up to the guy's office that hires for them, and they're big developers, big office building owners up here. And they have a REIT, they have their own REIT, so I went up there, and I was just trying to push my way in and show initiative, I guess. And I ended up getting in the elevator with the interviewing guy, with the interviewing partner. And I recognized him, and I introduced myself, and he said, "Oh, you're the guy that I could wallpaper my office with your resumes." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, first of all, you can stop sending the resumes. I've got plenty.
I've got plenty."
And he said, "If you'll give me about 20 minutes, I'll sit down with you." That was like 11:30. At 5:30, he walked out, and he called me into his office. And I was still there.
Longest 20 minutes of your life.
You were committed.
And he sat down and he said, "So how much money do you have in the bank?" He said, how many months of expenses would you say you have in the bank? And I said, I don't know, 2 weeks. And he said, "When you get 6 months worth of expenses, come back and talk to me." And that was it. The interview was over.
No way.
I said, "You'll never survive without 6 months of expenses in this business, because your commissions are big, but they're few and far between."
Sure.
So with my tail between my legs, I went back to Greenville, and I said, "Well, I can do this myself." So I started my own business.
Lit the fire under you. I love it.
Yeah. And he was right, though. I didn't have enough money to survive, so I was playing the guitar hard and fast, trying to survive, and not doing too many commercial real estate transactions. I met an older guy that owned a lot of commercial real estate around here, and he taught me a lot. And I made a couple transactions with him and leased out some spaces and sold some lots, but not enough to survive. So then I went, so I liked that business. I just couldn't survive long enough to be in it.
Sure.
And so I got a job at a mortgage company, and I really liked that. And the change in rates at the time really slowed the business down. So he just had to lay me off, and he just didn't need me. And so I got the job in water, and I really enjoyed that as well. I got the job in waterfront land development, and I found something I was good at. And they really teach you the nuts and bolts of true selling. So everything you see in the, Glengarry, Glenn Ross type of movies, that's what we learned: how to overcome objections, how to work by a script, how to deliver urgency to your customers, how to sell the sizzle and not the steak. And So we were really good at it, and we made a lot of money. We made a ton of money, and it was mostly young people that made all this money, and nobody kept any of it. And so when the music stopped in 2008, there were not enough chairs to sit down in, and that ended that run in that business.
Yeah.
So, I love that analogy when the music stopped, because it definitely came to a halt back in 2008. So I definitely remember, my dad being in some deals, and he had just flipped the last couple of things when it was basically time not to flip anything else.
Yeah, and the lessons you learn there are, first of all, don't let one thing take you down. So don't put all your eggs in one basket to where you can be taken down by one occurrence.
Yeah.
And I had done that. I put all my eggs into my new company, and it took me down. So and cash, you got to have cash. You cannot really overstate the need for reserves.
Sure.
And that has been probably the biggest lesson.
Cash is king, right?
Live within your means, below your means.
Yep. No, I think that's a good point to be made, and to kind of reiterate for the listeners. It's, there's times where you're kind of riding the wave, and it's easy to kind of follow or keep up with the Joneses, or even excel past them because you're doing really well. But you have to make sure that you have those reserves. And kind of going back to the very forefront of the story, you could have had that big job with the Highlands if you had those reserves, right? And those kind of things like that. And it's kind of setting things up again. So that's kind of full circle there, which is pretty cool. And I think it's a great lesson for all the listeners. And I guess now we kind of turn into the landlord side. You said you were in it with partners. I'm sure a lot of listeners here are probably interested on kind of how you set up those deals, how you got partners to buy deals with you, and then kind of what that scope of real estate looked like for you.
Well, a partnership is something where you have to bring something to the table, right?
Sure.
If you don't bring anything to the table, you're not useful. And partnerships are risky enough as it is. So what I brought to the table was that I had, at that point, I did not have good credit. I did not have any money.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew something about financing, because we had a lot of good relationships within Timberline Land Company for lot loans. So I was able to really leverage that with the local banks at the time, where the lending environment was a lot more lax than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the training. I had the real estate training. As a broker, I knew contracts, I knew how to set the deals up, and I knew the financing end of it, and I knew how to find them, and I knew how to, do an income statement. One of the few things I really got out of college that I can say that I used is, my real estate training. But then I needed some money. I needed some good credit, and I needed some construction knowledge. So I found two guys that were working construction together. One of them had great credit and some cash, but didn't know anything about real estate. The other one had some cash but bad credit and didn't know anything about real estate. And so we put us all together, and we were a pretty good team.
There you go.
We bought 6 or 7 rental properties, and they renovated them. And we kind of had a racket, man. We went to the sorority houses, and that's the only place we got our tenants from. We knew their dads would pay the leases.
Sure.
Right? At the time, I was married with a new child, and so I had all the babysitters I could stand, and we treated them really well. And we would make sure everything was fixed. We, of course, when you have cute girls in your houses, you don't have trouble getting contractors over there either.
Hey, we might have pause. That's a very good tip right there for anyone listening. So if you have a great looking tenant, It's easier to get the contractors there to fix it.
It took a while to figure out that girls will trash your houses a little bit less than guys.
Oh yeah.
And, for the most part, there's some nasty girls out there too, I'm sure. So, but anyway, I figured out I would just go to the sorority houses and put up my availability for whatever rentals we had. And then whatever girls we got, we would let them come in whenever. If I was playing downtown, I would put their name at the door and they would get in free, and they'd bring their sorority sisters. And we had this great big showing of people to come and see me play. And we would give them little birthday gifts. We'd give them little Christmas presents, like little tiny things, right? But we acknowledged, these events, and we would occasionally drop by with a case of beer for them. And so we were really good landlords.
Sounds like it. You want to be my landlord? Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay. I want to leave me.
We took care of them, and then we also incentivized the girls to replace themselves in the lease. So invariably, you got girls moving out of the sorority house that want to live in a house on what we call the grid here,
right?
And the house is near the university, and so they would just replace themselves in the lease, and they would get a little bonus for that. They wouldn't have to do much cleaning because the other person would just come in and accept it the way it is. And
that is genius. Like that is a real genius move. I actually haven't heard of anyone doing something like that before, but I definitely see how it works perfectly in the college environment.
We had no vacancies ever.
You were ahead of the time on getting into student housing. It sounds like.
Yeah, I wish I still had those houses, but we let them go.
It's okay. That's part of it. That's a great point. Kind of talk to the audience about that. We had a really good episode before about properties that we wish we would have never sold.
I was just thinking about the one that got away episode.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So the opportunity.
I drive by them now and I'm like, oh man. I mean, to buy this now would be ridiculous.
Right.
But then
also that's what we said before, when we bought them then, it was just like, how are we ever going to be able to afford this?
Sure.
Right.
But we rolled the dice and did it anyway, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will's at least given up at least $1 million with all his properties that he's let go over time. You can see his face that he's definitely like knowing that he's at least $1 million.
It's not a good one, but
and especially my employees now, I hear about their landlord stories, and man, there's some terrible landlords out there.
Right.
Won't get the bugs out of the houses, won't fix a window, won't fix a lock, won't help their residents out, and that's just so short-sighted.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, yeah, whenever one of my properties I have an HVAC issue or anything, it's like on the spot, because I always think about if my AC was out, I need someone here right away. So I mean, you definitely have to treat your tenants like real people, and take care of them while you can. And I mean, and when you do that, they tend to usually pay on time and want to stay with you, because they all know that there's also not good landlords out there that do not take care of everything.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about life today, what you have going on for careers, investments, not only in real estate, but definitely want to peek at that too. But before we get to that question, I want to thank our sponsor, which this is a twofold, but we always give a big thank you to Clean Eats, who's our sponsor, who allows all kinds of guests to come on the podcast. And then ironically, that works for you as well.
Yeah, we got two Clean Eaters on the show today.
Yeah. So that's a big win. So yeah, if you just want to kind of dive into current career investments in real estate right now, I loved the background you gave for the audience, and the listeners. It's just like so cool to be in so many different parts of real estate. And that's another thing I like about this industry is there's so many moving pieces that everyone can find a place that they, feel most comfortable in, or what they get excited to wake up, what really gets them up and excited when they wake up in the morning and things. So.
Right. Well, when I first decided I wanted to do some flipping, then I I wasn't on any wholesalers list, so finding the deal was challenging, and it still is very challenging right here where I live. There's very rarely a good deal that pops up in my county where I live. Everything just goes so fast, and it's always overpriced.
Sure.
So I just decided, well, I'm from San Antonio. There seems to be a lot of opportunity down there. I have friends in the business down there, and I can make it work. So I found a deal down there, and actually.
So before you dive into it, so the listeners understand, you are remote flipping, right? Because you are currently in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he's going back, or Greenville. Sorry, Greenville. Yeah. And you're going back to where you grew up in San Antonio, but not physically. You're just finding the deals.
Right. So I actually flew down there.
Okay.
And before we closed, but I tied it up with other people's eyes. And video and, a lot of discussion. And so I pulled the trigger, and I'm like, what's the worst can happen? I can make less money and get an education, right? Make less money than I thought. Well, I closed on that house and found out that I had overlooked a $20,000 foundation problem.
Oh, man.
But we had about a $60,000 spread on that deal, based on what our estimate of the ARV was. And so that hurt, but it was not a disaster. So we went ahead and had that corrected. We got through the construction and everything. And then it took a lot longer than we thought. But the guy did a great job, and we put it on the market. And at the same time, we bought another one in the same neighborhood about a few months later, and had that one underway as well. But the first one just sat and sat and sat and did not sell and did not sell. And so our ARV of 325, we wanted to sell it for 325, and we felt very conservative at that, or fairly conservative at that. And it went on the market July 4th weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold it. I closed on it late January to sell it.
It's about 6 months.
Yeah, 6 or 7 months, maybe February.
Okay.
I sold it for $219,000.
Oh no!
So that was an L.
Yeah, that's an L. That's terrible. The second one, we went through. There was this group going around within the San Antonio inspections department. They called it the hit squad or something. They were looking for flippers who were doing work that required permits, but they were not getting permits.
Got it.
So our neighbor at this one house, who was a plumber, tried to get the plumbing work, and we didn't give him the work. And so he called the inspections department on us and said we were doing all kinds of work without permits, which we were not. We should not have needed a single permit in that house. All we were doing was taking old stuff and putting new stuff in, not even the HVAC. So they made us get a permit for every single thing. They made us rewire the house. They made us replace the panel, all kinds of rewiring. And then you could not get anybody to show up for inspections. So it just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it.
Sure.
So that deal, the ARV was 235, and we sold it for 189.
Oof.
Yeah. So what had happened was, in that neighborhood had a major price correction. So I was comfortable with it because one of the important things is knowing who your avatar is. Who is your buyer going to be?
Sure.
You want to know who that is before you buy the house. Who are you going to be selling it to?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we were in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, so we knew it was going to be probably a Hispanic family that was going to buy that house. And I felt like there was a great deal of available buyers. And but about that time, the rates started going up, and everybody put the brakes on. And
when
then
was this?
this was early 2023.
Okay.
We bought the first one in March, and then we bought the second one in May.
Got it.
And put the first one on the market in July. And the second one didn't go on the market until December. Bought it in May, put it on the market in December. And so, the biggest problem there that we didn't know is we didn't drive around quite far enough to find the new construction that was being built at the very far end of this massive neighborhood, where if you drove into it on Google Maps, it looks like you're driving in the middle of a field. The roads were not even on Google Maps yet.
Right.
So it didn't show up on anything. And so that new construction hurt us too, because they were getting beat up on price as well. And they had to let theirs go. You were getting a brand new house for what you could buy mine for. And everybody was taking the brand new houses,
Sure. I think that's a really important fact here that sometimes people don't look into as new construction, and then builders or developers that are doing more, they have that flexibility to slash prices, or they're working with lenders that can help with buy down rates and incentives and things like that. I know that there was a big price correction here locally from a developer that was on track to build about 100 homes. And then they had north of 60 of those that were sitting. And then they just slashed the prices, and it totally corrected this whole entire area for new construction.
If you look at the statistics, San Antonio is at the top of the list for areas with the biggest price corrections.
Wow.
Of course, we didn't know that at the time. That wasn't the case in early 2023. And, but by the end of the summer, San Antonio was getting beat up.
Yeah.
So is that because they're just building so much new construction there that there's now like a surplus of fresh homes?
No, I mean, I think it had everything to do with the rates.
Okay.
It was the rate problem, and the number of rates don't affect everybody. So you got to know, are you going into a market where you're going to be highly affected by these rates? Rates don't affect wealthy people, really. I'd have been better off selling an $800,000 house than a $250,000, $300,000 house.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a really good point there too. So how do you kind of mitigate that issue, and where do you lean towards now? And how did this experience allow you to see like a few different avenues and structures? Like you said, people who have more money, rates don't affect them as much. Does that change your strategy and your team's strategy on how you're flipping? And how are you guys staying motivated after those 2 entry deals?
Well, I think one of the things we did not do is we didn't look closely enough at leading indicators. So days on market, pendings, things like that, you really have to look at those and see what the trends are. How many homes are pending in your area? Are there none? Then that must mean that the demand has gone down.
Sure.
You got to really look and see if there's activity in your area. If there is none, you run the risk of being in an area that's kind of flat.
Sure.
And so I always want to try to buy something where I can see, some comps pretty close by. And you really got to look at the pendings and things that are actually on the market. Are there any houses on the market in your area? You really want to.
That's definitely that definitely makes a lot of sense. I had a similar flip issue in 2022 when the market really kind of took its big shift. I kind of bought one at the top of the market. So my the crap price I paid for it was on the higher side, and then whenever I got done with renovations and put it on the market, that's when it all shifted. And so like because of it took me a full 12 months to sell it, and so because of my holding costs, my hard money loan, I actually I broke dead even. Like my guy who does the work for me. He sent me one last bill at the end where I was like, man, if I pay that whole thing, I'm actually going to lose $500. And he's like, you don't have to pay. You can just pay me the $1,000, not that way you're even and don't have to take an actual loss. But yeah, I mean, and before that, I flipped 4 houses, and made profit on each one. So, just kind of, showing our viewers out there, Scott's being very vulnerable and very honest, with us, and showing us all that it's not all wins out there, but you can learn a lot, from it. And I believe that, he just kind of mentioned some of the things that he learned from this experience as far as, looking at the indicators, of real estate, days on market, how many pendings there are, how many homes are currently available, and comparing that data to previous years. And I'll kind of even take it a step further that, I've read something recently how, we really aren't going to probably face another housing crash like '08, just because that back in that time, there was, I think there was millions of homes for sale. And now the amount of homes for sale is so much less than it was, and a lot of that, has a lot to do with rates. So hopefully when these rates start coming down, we'll start seeing more product on the market. But it's definitely a lot of changes have happened in the past couple of years.
So it wasn't even a matter of me being remote. That really had nothing to do with anything except for the fact I might have seen that new construction sooner. I might have seen that, and I might have seen the trends, I guess. But after those 2 houses, I just decided to stay close to home here, and so everything we've done here has been pretty successful.
Awesome.
We've been through. I've been through a builder that I regret using. Was not a good relationship, and
can you tell the audience a little bit about maybe some ways to hinder that, and some ways that you can kind of, or some questions that you can ask a builder that if it's going to be the right fit or not?
That's a great. What's something that you've learned to ask in the future because of that experience?
Yeah.
Well, it's all about, first of all, seeing his work. You got to be able to see his work.
I think that's it.
And you got to know what you're looking at. So if you don't really know what you're looking at, you got to take somebody that does to go look at his work. And it is not personal. This guy did great work. He just didn't communicate well, and his timelines were bad. So you got to put somebody on a contract, and you got to give them. They got to know what the framework is for timing, right? Mm-hmm. When is he going to get paid? How often is he going to get a draw? What does it take for him to get a draw? What are the time the thresholds of time? What does he get if he's finished early? And what does he pay? What does it cost him if he finishes late? And there should be incentives on both sides of that.
I love that. We interviewed someone a couple weeks ago that also a successful flipper, and they said the same thing, that they have tiered pricing for their builders, and the builders that really get it and want to work well with investors understand that for the investor to get paid, it's all based on a timeline. And so the builder needs to match that. And so there's incentives. I'm curious on what your kind of incentives are, or how you structure that with a builder.
Well, basically, if you're finished a week early, that's not really getting finished early too much to give you a prize.
Sure.
Right? But if you're more than a week early, I'm going to give you $100 a day.
Yeah.
Before a week, if that you're finished early.
I love it.
Any more than a week early, you're going to get $100 a day. And if you're finished a week late, that's not too much to yell about either. But if you're finished more than a week late, it's going to cost you $100 a day after that.
I love it.
And we explain that in that these are our carrying costs that we're looking at. And that is absolutely going to be what it takes to pay for my carrying costs for you being late. And obviously change orders and everything make are the exceptions, but
Sure.
You really need to know with your agent, if your agent's going to sell a property, when are you going to put this on the market? Watch these flipping shows, and you got 3 weeks until open house and 2 weeks till open house. I mean, hell, I never even thought about it that way before. But you really got to do that on the front end. There's got to be a completion day. What is that day? You got to both agree on it, and then you got to chase that day and work backwards. And I use a program called Flipper Force.
Flipper Force. I like that. All right. So for all of our listeners, you guys need to check out, again, we really, outside of Clean Eats, we don't have sponsors. And so all the tools and things that our guests are using, those are kind of industry secrets, and we don't have any plugs or really anything.
Right.
So we're definitely not endorsing any of them ourselves. We're just throwing it out there as information, but we're not advising anyone to use it or not use it. Just showing, but this is something that Scott has found successful, so I'm probably going to check it out myself.
Yeah, I'm writing it down, and that's like perfect. Exactly what I was about to say is like these are industry like secrets that you're getting insiders for being listeners from our guests that are willing to share this stuff with you. So like I just wrote that down, and I'm actually looking it up simultaneously on this second desk, because these are the types of things that we love having interviews so that we can, find these tools that can, well, you're about to explain how it helps you, but sometimes it can save you, it might cost you on the front end, guys, but it'll save you thousands, or at least, keep you on that timeline and keep your builder on the timeline too. So,
right. So the great thing about Flipper Force, number one, is that I can go in and put in my prospective deals, right? So I'm looking at a deal, and it's got a flip analyzer in it. And so it asks you pretty much every question you could possibly think of. If you set your rehab, say at 40,000, it's going to ask you all the questions that add up to your carrying costs, your holding costs, your soft costs,
sure.
and your loan costs, everything to build in the total cost of the deal, and then what you're buying it for, and it's going to show you what your profit is at the end. And it's a great way to organize your thoughts in a pretty quick way and not leave anything out. And once you start getting good at it, you can quickly plug those numbers in, use them as a template. I break out my settlement statements and break down my costs from previous deals. And so it helps me analyze them. And then it's got a construction management tool in it that allows you to set your timelines.
That's awesome.
So my contractor has the ability to get in there and see that. And we're just now scratching the surface with it. I'm not even saying we're good at it yet, but it's going to be a must. And the other cool thing is there's a feature in there where I broke this deal down. It allows you to plug comps in there, and it gave me a really cool printout for my private lenders. So I'm able to give my private lender a package of why this is a good deal for them.
Interesting. That's pretty awesome. So when
check that out.
No, definitely. And then I think you bring up another great point that a lot of listeners are always curious on is private lending and money. So can you tap into that, and then just expand on why using Flipper Force to create this analysis with comps and things in it is just a turnkey way to get these private lenders to help with the deal?
Right. Well, I learned about private lending a couple of different ways. Of course, Bill Allen is a great money raiser, and he's got this challenge called the 500K challenge, and it's a kind of a step-by-step process of basically going on social media every single day for a month. It's a 30-day 500K challenge, and talking about your business. If you keep your business a secret, no one's going to want to work with you. You've got to get the word out there. And Sam is really good about being present on social media. I'm kind of annoyed by his cafe posts, but oh, it's so fun. I love watching them. That's a joke.
That's awesome.
I love how you smile at the very end.
Oh yeah, dude, that's my signature move.
Yeah. That, and then I read a book called Getting the Money.
I love it. Getting the money.
Yeah. And private lending is can be very scary at first because you are dealing with somebody's funds, somebody's cash that they trust you with, and that's a big deal. And there's ways to screw that up, and you can get confused with where your money's going, and you really got to stay organized with it. But I found private lending to be hugely, mainly the responsible for my ability to keep going. That and hard money lending,
So how many? That's pretty cool. So how many flips do you have going right now? So we heard about the 2 out of state in 2023, and then you said you honed it back in coming to North Carolina.
So I have a total of 5 exits. Right. Okay. So I've completed 5.
Sweet.
And I have 3 in process. One just got finished, and I'm closing on 2 this month.
Okay, awesome month for you. Nice.
I actually closed on 1 last week, and then found out that it never did close.
What? How does that happen?
The attorney called me the day after I signed everything and said the seller needed to bring $21,000 to closing, and she didn't have it, so she didn't do it.
Whoa!
So the wholesaler got a deal under contract for $21,000 less than she owed.
Oh my god!
Wow!
Yeah. I don't think I've heard of that one.
We tried to get the lender to take the $21,000 reduction, but they decided they're just going to foreclose on her. And
oh my god!
The deal's not worth it with $21,000 in the bag.
Sure. Already in the hole. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we move on to the next one.
On to the next one, man. So many unique deals here.
I want to, so just kind of for our listeners too, though. Yeah. How did you set up some of those private lending deals? Like what's the lender get? What do you get? Kind of what are like those terms kind of look like?
Well, I just put the opportunity out there, and I think it's important for everybody to remember that you're not applying for a loan. You're granting an opportunity to people that need it.
Sure.
Right? And that's how you have to look at it. There are so many people out there, I had no idea how many, that want to do something with some what we call lazy money, right? And don't know where to do it. And they'd love to get involved in real estate, but they don't have the time to educate themselves on it. And they want to get the benefit of it, but just don't know where to go. And so I simply put it out there on social media that I had some opportunities, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was really nervous about the first conversations, but as you start to talk about it, it gets easier. And what I did was I picked somebody that's wealthy, and I sat down with them, and they let me practice on them. And so they started firing questions at me that I needed to know the answer to. And if you can answer questions for somebody that is sophisticated in the money world, then you're probably going to do okay with your high school buddy who's got $100,000 they need to do something with.
Yeah, right? Sure.
Yeah, that's great advice for any of our listeners listening. So here's Scott about to start doing something he hasn't really done a lot before. He found someone who's really good with money to ask the right questions and be able to learn. I mean, I mean, that's I think that's a lesson that can be taken outside of the real estate and pretty much to any facet of life. That if you're wanting to learn something, best thing for you to do is go sit across from someone who can beat you up and can totally tear you apart, because that way you find out kind of everywhere you're weak and everywhere you gotta have an answer. I mean, that alone I think is gonna be one of my takeaways from the show is to go get and step in front of the firing squad and learn how to dodge the bullets.
What you want to know is where's their money now? What is their money making right now? And a simple statement of, well, what if I could double that?
Right.
If their money's in a CD and you say, what if I could double that? And it's secured by a hard asset, real estate. Would that be interesting to you?
Yeah.
And
do you then give them kind of a contract that puts them like in a lien position, or how does y'all's agreement work?
Well, it depends on the loan amount. So
okay.
Generally speaking, and it depends on the lender. I want the lender to be comfortable, right? So I don't mind putting somebody on the loan or in second position behind the primary loan, as long as the primary lender allows it. Because not every primary lender allows it. Right?
Sure.
But generally speaking, if you're putting less than $50,000 in, I'm going to give you a promissory note, by my company, and we'll agree on an interest rate and a term. I try to line up my term with the term. You want to line up your term with the term of your primary loan. You don't want those to be any different, really.
Right. Sure.
Maybe even make the term after your primary loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and then to let them know they could get it back early, right? But they'll have the option to redeploy those funds because we'll always have deals to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I do promissory notes. I had my attorney draw up a promissory note, and I just cut and paste with names and interest rates. And interest rate is based on what they're looking for. Not everybody requires, 15%. Some people are happy with less, and it depends on my need for it too. My need may be greater, and I may need to offer more incentive for somebody to pull the trigger, So some are secured and some are not.
Okay.
And I have one lender who's actually an attorney, and this lender gets deeds of trust from me and doesn't record them, but she's got them,
Interesting.
Yeah. And she could record them, and it would be fine, but she just chooses not to.
Yeah. And then so primarily, are you finding these people through? I know you mentioned social media. Is that where you're getting?
Yes, primarily through the content I put out.
That's awesome. That's
as
awesome.
Cringy as it is.
No, so can you no, that's fine. Can you tell us a little bit, if people aren't following you, like some of the strategies that you're posting through social media? I know you said just being loud, letting people know what your business is about, but can you go into a little more detail on that?
Well, I have this little I call it the tailgate investor, and I sit on my tailgate and I talk to my phone, right?
I love it.
And make videos that way. Invest in a microphone that you can pin on your collar and connect it to your phone, and just make videos and tell people what you're doing. And it just spreads. It simply spreads, but you got to be intentional about putting it out there. And I don't like it at all. Now I do like putting out there the lies, like when I'm walking through a house for the first time and you see piles of stuff and people are going, oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
But it's interesting to people, and seeing the transformations, people love to see that.
Oh yeah.
people tell me all the time, they'll stop me wherever I'm going. I really enjoy following your real estate stuff, and I'd like to learn more about it. And if you have the attitude of helping people in everything you do, then you're going to succeed. So in every deal you do, you want to try to help somebody. We had a deal in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, where this family, and we were looking at a house, and I was out there with the wholesaler, and I was sitting across from it in my truck, and this guy comes from his yard, and he's hollering at me, wanting to know why I'm parked in front of his house. And I said, well, I'm just looking at this house across the street. He says, why are you looking at my house? Why are you looking at all these houses? Y'all are kicking these people out. I said, no, sir, I'm not kicking these people out. I mean, if you have beef with that, you got to talk to who their landlord is, who owns the house now. I'm just interested in buying it.
Sure.
Well, you guys are just throwing people out of their houses. And I thought he was going to come at me. I mean, I was reaching down. I'm always, packing heat, right? So I'm close to it. And he was really upset. And
you never threatened a Texan.
And so finally, I said, sir, can you tell me what your relationship is to these people? And he said, that's my daughter and her husband and their children. And they're being kicked out of their house with 10 days notice. And it was just terrible. And I said, let me tell you something. After some thought, and I calmed him down, and he actually apologized. I said, let me tell you something. On closing day, nobody can tell them when they have to move out except for me. And they're not going to have to move out on closing day. And so we gave them an extra 2.5 weeks to move out. And then we gave them a check toward their deposit on their new place.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm gonna tell you what, it was like I bought them a new house. And they're like, we got all this stuff we got to throw away. I said, we're gonna have a dumpster there. Just throw it in there. That's okay.
That's nice.
They probably did a lot to clean it out. Kind of probably hauled a lot of the stuff out for you guys too, since you did everything for them.
Well, they just moved across the street to her dad's house. That's how they had to live until they found another house to live in. So they've taken care of our house. They've let me know if the door was open or if somebody weird's around there, and it's been very rewarding to find ways to help people along the way, and we get so much more out of it than the person we're helping. But if we take that attitude that you're trying to help somebody, then you're gonna do very well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's a really cool story, and
definitely. I actually do want to give Scott some credit too, because I actually remember watching your very first tailgate investor video, and I could definitely see the freshness of, just because I've been in your same shoes, kind of getting out of my comfort zone doing a video, and so I definitely see it. But man, you've progressed with that. Your videos since that first one, you definitely seem way more comfortable. And everything. So it's definitely putting the reps in, or definitely paying off.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about this. What we call, I guess it's a podcast, but it's really not.
Yeah.
So I was at a 7F event with Bill Allen, right? And one of there's 500 people in the room in Nashville, and he was asking for what was your takeaway from today's event, and I stood up at the microphone and I said, well, my takeaway is that I got to get off my tail and start this podcast I've been talking about starting forever. And Bill said, okay, all right. So when are you going to do that? I said, probably in a couple of weeks of me getting back. He said, and he looked at his watch. He was like, so you're talking about July, like the 10th, right? I said, yeah, that sounds about right. He said, okay, July 10th. So by July 10th, you're going to have an episode launched. Well, sure. He said, so what do I get if you don't do it? And I said, so what do you want? And he said, what do you hate the most? I had to think about that, and I said, cooked okra. All right. If you don't put that podcast out by this date, you're going to eat a whole plate full of cooked okra on a Facebook Live.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
500 people laughing, right? But my feet were held to the fire, I can tell you that. So within 2 hours to spare, I had my first episode uploaded, and I had lights and did 3 different cameras and all this stuff, and interviewed a good friend of mine who's very successful in real estate. And I've not done another interview episode of the Tailgate Investor. I've got to.
Hey, you got an interview right now.
Right. Well, me interviewing people, I haven't done anymore.
Let us know when you want us to come on your show.
Yeah.
You know?
You'll be my next one.
Yeah. For sure. Well, man, what's the next 12 months in real estate look like for you?
Well, we have a goal of 30 flips in the next 12 months.
I love it.
That's 2 to 3 a month, right? And I want to put and I want to be a general partner in a multifamily deal.
Love it.
So I'm a limited partner in one now, and I want to be a general partner in a multifamily deal. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
So when you're doing this, I have a question that I'm sure the listeners are curious too, especially when you said that earlier with private lending, you have an option for the private lenders to then, reinvest that money with you because you always have more deals. Like 30 flips, like you said, is 2 to 3 deals a month. How are you finding that type of influx of deals?
Well, right now, wholesalers have been kind of my sole method, and I just got a real estate agent that brought me one.
So wholesalers, wholesalers specifically, like good ones that are bringing you good deals.
Well, I basically joined a bunch of real estate Facebook groups, and that's where they're kind of hanging out and telling them that I'm a buyer and this is my buy box, and got an account on Investor Lift, and and now they're I'm getting text messages about deals the day before they hit the public, and getting a heads up.
Love it.
And so word's getting out that we can close, and we have some idea what we're doing. So I get a whole lot more deals to look at than I can actually look at in a reasonable amount of time. But
that's awesome.
But I want to go direct to seller. That's a goal for next year, to have the opportunity to wholesale a little bit as well.
That's how actually Will and I met, was in a wholesale mastermind. We were both wanting to learn how to find better deals for ourselves so we can get our own deals direct to seller. So like I said, it was a wholesale mastermind that kind of brought us together.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I just had a real estate agent bring me a great deal that she normally gives to one of her other flippers, and but she brought it to me this time, and it's a really good deal. And so word's getting out the longer you stay in it, that what you're doing. And I got friends now that saying, my neighbor passed away and the house is going to go through probate, or my neighbor just moved into a assisted living facility. They're her kids are going to have to dispose of this house, and that's going to prove to be a great deal.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about just speaking things into existence, letting people know what you're doing. Another curious thing, is it just that same template on how you're finding investor friendly agents? I know that there's a lot of times when agents say they're investor friendly and then they're not, but it sounds like this one's giving you.
They know nothing about the numbers.
Right.
Well, they don't generally know what it takes to be investor friendly, right? Investor friendly means you're gonna send me an ARV on this deal that I send you, within a short period of time, and every 10 or 15 deals that you send me an ARV on, I'm going to buy, and you're going to get the listing.
Sure.
Right. and then one of my agents is a private lender of mine, so she's in
Perfect.
two of my deals, and
So
she's already
invested in finding you deals.
yeah. So I wouldn't say I have a lot of investor friendly real estate agents. I haven't really used that as a source to find deals.
Okay.
But I do have a few agents that will send me ARVs, their opinion of the value, and after it's fixed up. So I have one more data point to consider. I use batch leads for to analyze my properties.
Batch leads. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it pulls in comps, and you can give them a thumbs up or thumbs down, and it'll add into your evaluation of that property. So that's one way that I do it. And then I look at whatever's on the market, around there, pending and listed and all that. But for right now, finding deals has really strictly been wholesale, and I've bought a bunch of deals from New Western. I have a New Western rep that really does me good, and they're a pain to deal with because they're a double closing wholesaler, and you got to pay for the front side of the closing. You got to pay those closing costs too.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's tough.
That's an extra 2% in your numbers. You budget that in,
Mm-hmm.
But they generally bring a little bit better deals than other wholesalers do. They're more organized.
Who is this again? Sorry, is they're nationwide?
New Western.
And they're nationwide?
Yes, they are nationwide. Yeah.
I'm looking them up right now.
That's you guys in Florida, right? So, Bill Allen's company in Florida is called Blackjack Real Estate.
Yep.
And they're right here in Pensacola.
Yeah. So that's a great wholesaler for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they have the secret sauce down there.
They do.
They're pretty much just focused there, Chattanooga and Nashville, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have the next 12 months aggressive at 30 flips. And then also being a GP or general partner in a large deal. What's the lifetime goal or the end goal look like?
Well, the end goal is freedom, right?
So what's the lifetime goal? In-game look like? We know that right now, super aggressive plan for the next 12 months, doing 30 flips, being a GP. So tell us what like the end game's like.
Well, I've really enjoyed being in the restaurant business, but that's not part of the end game plan.
Sam, what do you say to that?
That's part of the escape.
Right. I mean, I'll tell you what, I love coming to work every day in the restaurant. I love the people that I work with. I love mentoring these young people, hearing about their lives and helping them take the next step in their lives. It's a really important thing to me. So whatever I do, I want to keep doing that. And so I think this is going to give me the freedom to continue to give more, to be involved with young people more, to help people that are less fortunate than I am, and to educate people on how to build wealth in real estate. I mean, I think it's something that's super exciting and interesting to me. And so that really is where I see myself, 5-10 years or even before that. I mean, I'm doing it now on a very small basis, but just sharing things with people that I'm just a little farther ahead than,
It's awesome.
Definitely.
So freedom to do all those things and to go see a Cowboys game whenever I want, and and the Texas Aggies and the Pirates.
No, that's awesome. Something I always like to ask, for our readers to kind of give everyone a starting point is, what were the what's your favorite book that had the most impact on your life, or maybe your top 3 favorites that really kind of helped you get to where you are today? So I already wrote down Getting the Money. I don't know if that's one of your 3 or not, but I'm definitely interested to hear what those books are for you.
Well, probably the biggest one is Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah, that's come up a few times on a few different episodes.
Huge game changer there on the difference between what assets and liabilities are.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks your house is an asset, but it's really not.
Right.
It's really costing you money. Now it ends up being an asset on your balance sheet, but your house is not putting money in your pocket. Assets put money in your pocket every month, and your house only takes money out of your pocket. That's controversial, but I believe in that. But eventually, you're gonna want your own house so you can do your own thing with it. The second one is extreme ownership.
Mm-hmm. This book also has come up before. So for all of these listeners, there's a couple that you guys might want to start with.
So I found that first through my exploring of real estate, but then Clean Eats brought that out. John recommended that, and so it was after that I actually bought it, and I give it to my key people, and that's how we kind of talk through things. This employee didn't do this or they didn't do that. Well, okay, did you make it implicitly clear in writing what they were supposed to do? No. All right, then you got to own that, right? So making sure that leaders treat their employees in a servant's mindset. So we should be servants to people that are doing the work that we're paying them for.
Sure.
And it's that servant mindset, that ownership of everything negative and giving credit away as much as you can is really important. And let's see, what's that for that? Oh, profit first.
I like it.
Profit first is the way that you segment your money, right? Instead of taking the normal income statement where you have your gross receipts minus your expenses, that's your profit. They switch the expenses and the profit into different order. So you take your gross receipts, you take your profit out first. And then what's left is how much money you have to spend on expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different mindset of how to account for your funds when they come in, and then where that money goes after it comes in. And it's a powerful method to run a business, and they have it for real estate as well. So there's profit first for real estate as well, which I've not read, but it's basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm writing those down.
Those are some great recommendations. I haven't read Profit First, so I'm definitely going to check that one out. I've definitely have seen that recommendation, before. I think both in my Audible, and I think other people have mentioned it. But I think
if you think about what happens when you sit down with your accountant, and they say, "Oh, you had a great year. You made $150,000 this year." Where's the cash?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where's the cash?
Where's the cash?
Right, because you're not pushing that money off the table. It's being spent, reinvested in your business, and you've got to stop reinvesting in your business once you have what you need.
Sure.
Right? And you got to start taking that money off the table and then putting it away where it's very hard to get to, and eventually deploy that into another, income producing asset. Because if you're holding a lot of cash, that's a great way to not have it anymore, is by having it liquid.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm really excited to check out Profit First. Same like Sam. I haven't read that one, so that'll be a really good read. Any other books? I know we asked for 3, but sometimes people have some other ones that might fit the bill too.
Bill Allen's book on flipping is a fantastic book. I think it's called Seven Figure Flipping.
Oh,
Okay.
Or Flipping Underground. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
Flipping Underground. Yeah, that one's good.
That's a real good one. Getting the money is a really good one. We already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big time reader. Oh, the 12-week year.
The 12-week year. Okay, I like that one.
I'm really trying to employ that to where you only think about goals in terms of 12 weeks at a time.
Okay.
And
I
so,
like that. So about you get about 4 years out of 1 year then.
yeah, well, you do set forth 10-year, 5-year, and 36-month goals, but your tactics are based on 12-week goals.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
And so every day is kind of like a week, and every week is kind of like a month. So you don't have time to wait around until October to start getting after it.
Right.
Sure.
To meet your goals for the end of the year. So you stop thinking about things annually and you start thinking about them in 12-week periods. And you can start that whenever you want. And it's a book, and it's an online program. You can buy into a set of it's almost like an app, I guess. You can get as deep into it as you want. They have weekly meetings and that kind of thing. But 12-month year, yeah, that's a good one.
I'm excited to check that one out.
Some great tips. I'll definitely
12-week year. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's gonna be sweet. 12-week year. I'm gonna check all those out. So just kind of like wrapping things up. So much good information. And thank you so much for giving us your afternoon. And I know the listeners will be excited to check this episode out, and hopefully we can make it on one of your episodes too. So
Gotta have one.
So what's some advice that you would give to someone starting today if they wanted to do what you do?
One piece of advice: find a coach.
I love it. Perfect.
Find a coach. You can't know what you don't know.
That's true.
Finding a coach doesn't mean that you don't pull the trigger and get started somewhere and stick your toe in the water. But if you don't find a coach, if you find a coach, you're going to cut down the learning curve, tenfold.
Yep.
Which means you're going to do things 10 times faster. 10x.
Yep.
Right?
10x. Yeah.
So finding a coach is everything, and it doesn't have to be something that costs you $1,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that are successful like to help other people.
Yeah.
So you got to be brave enough to.
I know that's what you said was your end goal, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of gratification in that.
Totally.
So find someone that is successful and do what they do.
I love it.
And don't act like you know it all. You got to put your hat in your hand and have humility and be coachable.
Yeah, that's critical. Critical, being coachable, finding a good coach. I love it.
I think that's the best advice.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then just so that some of the listeners can kind of grasp this, and it's accessible, if people are like, how do I find a coach? I think at the beginning of this episode, or in part 1, you said it was from TikTok, right?
Yeah.
It's accessible to literally everyone, right?
I started searching on TikTok, and that led to other people's pages on Instagram and YouTube. And you can find just a ton of free information. Bill Allen's a great person to follow. I think he offers everything you need in coaching to build wealth in real estate. He's got within his group of people that he works with, they have all bases covered. They have short-term rentals. They have multifamily. They have flipping, wholesaling, buy and hold, BRRRR, all those strategies. They have information on and leverage.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just think that having that accessibility and, seeing what you've done since your first flip in 2023 to now, and now your goal is to get 30 in a year. And also, obviously since the time you were getting out of college, you've been in all facets of real estate, but like really propelling yourself and finding that niche that you love, how quickly it can happen. And, through TikTok, like everyone has apps and things that they can find. So I just think that's really cool. And then your ending advice is be coachable, right? And so if people don't know where to start, that's a great way right there. So, and then also like,
Yeah. Take action. Be coachable and take action.
Take action. Yeah. Well, man.
It's hard to not say take action, because I think that is really what holds a lot of people back.
Sure.
Is they don't do something.
Sure.
You got to do something.
That's true. That's very true. So, well, man, thanks so much for being on the episode. Any last closing that you wanna give to the listeners?
No, just pay it forward. When somebody helps you, pay it forward and help somebody else.
I love it.
Great. Where's the best place for people to find you, Scott, if they want to talk to you personally, or bring you deals to sell you, or possibly invest in some of your invest in those 30 flips you have going next year? Where's the best place for people to reach out and get in touch with you?
Well, I'm easy to find on Instagram. It's just Scott Mueller, Mueller, is my at Scott Mueller. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on TikTok. And then my email address is scott@lsrflips.com. LSR is for Lone Star Rehabs. That's the name of my company. Scott@lsrflips.com.
Perfect. Awesome.
Definitely. So if you're in the North Carolina area, definitely give Scott a shout, because that is his particular area of focus, and he is a great person to partner with and learn from, and do some deals with, because he's definitely learned from some bad ones, knows how to do some good ones, and has a big future in front of him.
Those bad ones suck. Stay away from that.
Oh man, but hey, it's all a lesson, It's all a lesson.
It is. Well, guys, I've really enjoyed being on the show, and I've enjoyed talking with you. Some great questions, and I sure hope it helps somebody.
Yeah. Thanks here, Sam. Where can I find you, man?
Yeah, so best place to find me is at my Instagram. It's Sam_Florida man. Feel free to shoot me any deals you're looking at. If you just want a second set of eyes or my personal opinion on it, I'll be glad to look it over for you. If you want to bring a deal to partner with Will and myself, we would love that as well. So we primarily focus in Northwest Florida and South Alabama, but definitely reach out to me on Instagram at Sam_Florida man or the EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. And Will, what about you?
Same thing, man. EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. You can find all of our episodes. You can inquire, contact us there. Feel free to ping us via Sam's Instagram or mine, which is just Elite REI, Real Estate Investing, FL.W.McClelland. That's me. And I'll be candid. I'm not as extremely responsive there, but you can definitely hit me there. And then if you go searching deep in some of the early episodes, you'll get my personal number, which I put out there, and then that thing gets blown up. So I make it a little bit harder, and I also want you to listen to some episodes now. So thanks again.
Cool. So, man, Scott, we appreciate you coming on. I look forward to, I'll continue to be in touch with you, obviously, through Clean Eats. And, I'm sure we'll eventually be looking at some deals together one day, hopefully. So, man, thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Look forward to talking to you guys again.
Sounds good.